We're real glad that you're here in the room, too. Welcome all. Are you guys ready? Who are we missing? Rachel, okay. We're just about to start. 1 minute. All right, we're going to be starting in 1 minute. Welcome all. Okay, guys, get ready. 1 minute. All right, here we go. Good morning and welcome. Let's stand and sing. Something wonderful, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. There's something wonderful, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. I can feel it in my body, I can feel it in my soul, I can feel it in my heart, and it won't let go. Something wonderful, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. Something wonderful, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. All this love inside. All this love inside. We can let it shine. Something wonderful, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. Come on, sing it out, y'all. Here we go. Something wonderful, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. Let's take it home. Something wonderful, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. All right, have a seat and good morning and welcome to Unity Church of the Mountains, where the light
And what a beautiful day this is. The beautiful rain falling, cooling us, nourishing us. Let us join our hearts and minds together as we gather in this sacred space, be it the sacred space of this room or your home or the whole world. It's all one space. We acknowledge, we feel, we know the presence of God here today and always, moving in us, through us, as us. And we open our hearts and our minds and our eyes and ears to the guidance of the divine, to the light of love, to the sound of that still small voice, to the pure knowing that all people everywhere are good, are worthy, are holy. And so we commit today to loving our neighbors as ourselves. Let's join together in saying our opening affirmation together. There is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, God the good, omnipotent. And let's stand one more time and sing another one, shall we? Come together, heart and soul, as we love together. Young and old, we will sing together, together in one song. Come together, dreams and hands, we will join together, build a place we can grow together. Together we are strong. I see God in you. You see God in me. One path, one vision, one family, one family. Come together from different worlds. We are drawn together in our own way. We can pray together. Together we are strong. Pray together. Together we are one. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way you feel. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way you feel. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way you feel. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way you feel. Good morning, Jan Vaughn.
Good morning, Mike Davis, and world. The world is watching and listening. Everyone that is receiving our light today. Because as we shine our light in this beautiful place, and out from this beautiful place, it goes out into all the world, all the universes, all the everywhere we don't even know about. Today, as we pray on our sacred box, and that's just what the box is. It's a sacred box where we put our prayer request and in requesting divine order, no matter what that looks like. So let us center ourselves. And if you have any prayer requests at this time, you may say them. Know there is only one power, and that is you, God. We are a child of God and surrounded by the peace of God. God is love. Guide us, God. Let us know your peace that passes understanding. Spirit, help us know you are in us, as us, when we stay focused on you. Knowing that whatever the outcome is, it is always in divine order. And so it is. Amen.
Thank you, Jan, so much for inviting me up here to say this prayer. I looked at it this morning and I just thought, this is such a lovely prayer. I welcome the light. Taking a moment to appreciate the beauty of a sunset, I realized that in another part of the world, the first rays of a rising sun are holding light to a morning sky. Whether I can see it or not, the sun never stops shining somewhere. A new day is dawning, much more brilliantly than the sun that lights is the sun that light of God is too. Sometimes my thoughts may be focused on a challenging situation that I do not sense this divine light. Then in a fashion of insight, I experience again an illuminating presence that in the darkest moments is my next thought. I affirm, let there be light. I breathe out frustration and worry. I breathe in. I am filled with the light of the truth that illuminates my mind and shines within my heart. Then God said, let there be light. And there was light. That comes from Genesis chapter 1, verse 3. Thank you, Jan.
I was looking at the Golden Key little booklet yesterday that we're all familiar with from Emmett Fox. This little booklet is a gem. And I know that Robin's taught on it here, and I know we've talked about it a lot. But I found this poem that I thought, it touched my heart, and I thought it might yours as well. Detach and Depend by Reverend Claudel County. No matter what we are right now or what we are doing, we can detach from it for a moment and depend on God's presence fills us. No matter how hard the struggle or how hopeless life can seem, we can detach from it a moment and depend on God. Light shows us a new way. No matter how low we may feel or how wrong we think we have been, we can detach from that a moment and depend on God. Love heals us. No matter how lost, how scared, or how angry we are, we can detach from it for a moment and depend on God. Peace lifts us. Life may seem so confusing and complicated, so frustrating, or life can be so joyous, so nurturing, and so exciting. Guidance can be our reality and faith our guiding star if we remember to detach and depend on God.
Voices are calling round the earth. Spirit is rising in the sea. The music of the morning fills the air, guiding our journey home. Where is the path beyond the forest? Where is the song we always knew? I remember it just around the bend. In the village, the music never ends. In a circle of friends, in a circle of sound, all our voices will blend when we touch common ground. Voices are calling around the earth. Music is rising in the sea. The spirit of the morning fills the air, guiding our journey home. Here is the path beyond the forest. Here is the song we always knew. Remember, it's just around the bend. In the music, the village never ends. In a circle of friends, in a circle of sound, all our voices will blend when we touch common. Sing with us. In a circle of friends, in a circle of sound, all our voices will blend when we touch common ground. Voice says, calling round the earth. Music is rising in the sea, and the spirit of the morning fills the air, guiding our journey home. Do you feel that? I do. The song says, where's the path beyond the forest? Where's the song we always knew? And of course the answer is, I remember it just around the bend. In the village, the music never ends. You see, we are here in a circle of friends. And in that circle, we find common ground. So imagine that we are in a circle now, in a beautiful forest setting, in a clearing. There are trees around us. It's a beautiful space. And in that circle, we're together. Not just the people in this room, but all the people of the world. Think about your family. Think about your friends. Think of all the communities who touch each other across the planet like the rings of the Olympic logo. Can you see that in your mind right now? And in that circle, in that clearing in the forest, we sit together at peace, hands touching, feet touching, hearts touching, all souls connected and joyful in the one true circle. Today we call upon the spirit of oneness. Take that into your heart. Today we call upon the spirit of the village. Take that into your heart. Today we call upon the Spirit of God expressing the Spirit of love. Take that into your heart. expressing as a spirit of cooperation, friendship, sharing, and caring, expressing through the spirit of the earth, rising up, rising up, rising up through our communities, our families, our countries, our religions, our cultures. In a circle of friends, we find common ground. In a circle of friends, we find the truth of our being. In a circle of friends, we find peace. In a circle of friends, we find our way home to the holy heart of God. All one, all love, all in, all listening, for the Spirit of God calling us to love our neighbors as ourselves. I am my neighbor. I love my neighbor as myself, with all my heart, all my soul, all my understanding. I love my neighbor as myself. When I can love me, then I can love thee, and we can love the world together. I love my neighbor as myself. I love my neighbor as myself. I love my neighbor as myself. Good morning and welcome. Our guest speaker today is Mitch Cohen. Mitch is joining us virtually from his home, from his office. Good morning and welcome. Our guest speaker today is Mitch Cohen. Mitch is joining us virtually from his home, from his office in Atlanta, and he has a font of wisdom to share with us today. All right, and he's a witty and wonderful guy too. So Mitch, welcome. Thank you for being with us. Okay.
Good to be here, and I have definitely a font of something, but I can't say the word in public.
Okay, well, maybe with us you can. All right. Could you just begin by telling us a little bit about your background and some of your current activities? So where are you coming from?
Sure. So, I'm a big Grateful Dead fan, and one of the lines in the song "Truckin'" is "What a long, strange trip it's been," and I'm living it in every way, shape, and form in my secular life and in my spiritual life. So I'm going to just shorten the crazy journey of the spiritual life. So I was born Jewish. And I was born into a family where three of my grandparents were poor immigrants who came over anywhere between 1905 and 1929. And three of those grandparents were Russian Jews who came over with just whatever bag they carried. And one of them was German, but she was Lutheran when she came over. met my grandfather, and then converted to Judaism, but stayed very connected. To this day, I'm very close with one of my second cousins from Germany. So, always was brought up around interspiritual interfaithness. Our home was fairly non-observant, but because it's all my parents knew, we belonged to a very traditional synagogue. And a very traditional fashion, I was the oldest son. I had to go to Hebrew school in a synagogue where the rabbi was Orthodox. His wife wore a wig, which is a sign of modesty. So that gives you a sense of what, I'll just use the word dogma, what religious focus was foisted upon me, not by choice, right? Because I was born into it. But at age 15, I'd had it. And some things happened politically at the synagogue, and I fired Judaism and basically became agnostic. Definitely believed in God. I just didn't know what that was. And that carried me through Georgia Tech, where I went to college. And it was after college when I had my first existential crisis, and I was just grabbing at straws around everything. And I realized from a book called Personhood, written by a guy named Leo Buscaglia, who I had never heard of, sort of like the forefront of the personal development movement of the 70s. So this was 82-ish. And he said every self-actualized human being has a very strong spiritual foundation. And so that led me on a spiritual quest. And I explored a lot of different religions. I kept my own for last. Was really drawn to the Eastern traditions, Hindu, particularly Taoism and Buddhism, Shintoism in Japan. And then I read up on something about Judaism. We wouldn't even step foot in a Reformed synagogue. It was a Presbyterian church with a Jewish star, but that wasn't true, right? But my parents, they just couldn't deal with it, right? It wasn't traditional, it wasn't Jewish. And that opened the door to a Judaism that incorporated some of what drew me to the Eastern traditions, and that's meditation. That is Kabbalah, or Jewish mysticism, as well as a very liberal theology of God not being perfect and not being all powerful and controlling. And that led me on my journey back to Judaism. So it was a choice. I left it, and then I chose to come back, but I also learned to be informed by these other religions. And little did I know, about 40 years later, I would meet a spiritual teacher named Rami Shapiro, whose whole focus is perennial wisdom taught in all religions. And I've become pretty much a devout student of him and all of his books, and I've been to a number of his retreats. Highly recommend his books. His name is Rabbi Rami Shapiro. So my theology now is I'm a non-dualist. I don't see any separation between God and creation. God's not out there for me. God is definitely not patriarchal. And God is everything. And what that means is, like in the opening verses of Genesis, where God said, and it was good, each creation day I put in parentheses, then everything is acceptable. And that means the good and, yes, the bad, right? Everything is life, right? And if we look to religion to short circuit dealing with pain in life, then that is spiritual bypassing, and that is doing us no good. So that means I'm also a psycho-spiritualist. What does that mean? I'm a text nerd. And when I study biblical text, I look at the context of what is being said or written in whatever translation, because no English translation that exists today is accurate, not a one. Because the original biblical text was in biblical Hebrew, and it first got translated into Greek, and that became the language of intellectuals. And then after the Romans took over and Constantine converted, it got written into Latin, right? And then from there, it went to German, then to English. So you tell me any text written in an original language that's been translated 5 times to make it into all the modern Bibles of today, there is no way that it's accurate. And one of the easiest evidence is if any of your Bibles say that Jacob wrestled with an angel, it is 100% absolutely incorrect. Because the Hebrew word is Ish Elohim, and that means a divine being. That does not, the Hebrew word for angel is malach, plural is malachim. That's not in the text. So my interpretation is taught to me over the years by several mystical rabbis, is Jacob was wrestling with the divine being within. And it was his shadow that was blocking him from that divine being within. Right? And what was that shadow? Running from his brother for 20 years, lying, being a mama's boy, all of that stuff. He faced it alone. For the first time, he adulted, right? He realized that he was going to face possible death the next day at the hand of his brother. Sent his wives and everything across the river Jabbok, which is symbolism right there, and faced his shadow. And he prevailed. But he had a limp the rest of his life. And that, like all of us, we are all wounded and we carry those wounds for a lifetime. But if we work through the wounding, then we can lessen the impact. So I just gave you an example of context and psychospiritual interpretation of text in 32:25 to 32:32, I think it is. So basically, I led a congregation for 17 years. As a lay leader first, I was ordained in 2012 as a rabbi. And I did that because I realized a lot of people who weren't affiliated with congregations still needed life cycle events, weddings in particular, b'nai mitzvah, bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah for girls, or funerals. And rabbis are very busy and they have to first attend to their congregation. Well, you have all these unaffiliated. In Atlanta, the affiliation rate in a synagogue is only like 25%. So you have 75% of Jewish people in the Atlanta area that are not affiliated, that God forbid somebody dies, it's going to be hard to find a rabbi. So that's why I did it. And lo and behold, 2018, as I continued to evolve, studying with the Rami Shapiro and a Buddhist teacher named Adyashanti, I realized that I had simply evolved beyond religion. And so now I consider myself, again, a non-dual panentheist. What is a panentheist? So it's a person that believes that God is in everything, nature as well as the ineffable. I don't know, right? I'm comfortable with the juxtaposition of God is I don't know, and God is everything in nature, including us. And that we are divine manifestations of God. And that we, from our hearts, put out love and compassion, but we can also cover that with shadow and do all the horrible things that humans do. So there is no such thing as hell in a panentheist world. We create the hell right here on earth. And we can also create heaven right here on earth. So one more little piece, life after death. Jews never spend a lot of time worrying about life after death, just a given. What we focus on is our deeds and actions in the here and now. And our rituals and traditions and holidays are all about the theme of what have you done for me now? How have you made the world a better place? How have you treated other human beings with respect and dignity? How have you taken care of the widow, the orphan, and the poor? How have you taken care of the earth? As it says in Genesis 2, we are not dominators of the earth. We are stewards of the earth. That's what the word actually means, right? It is not our job to just take everything and not give back from the planet. Our job is to steward the planet. Again, another mistranslation. So, but now I want to get to the 9 texts. I want to culminate it with Leviticus 19:18, which is the golden rule in Christianity and other religions. I don't have the handout handy, but when I was doing a lot of interfaith work here in Atlanta, the Interfaith Community Initiative had a handout that we use in all of our interfaith trips. Not all of them, and some of them, but it had something like 20 religions around the world that have some teaching about love your neighbor as yourself. Mm-hmm. So to me, that talks to the fact that all of religion comes from one divine archetypal source. I don't know what that is. I don't care what that is. But the fact that there are similar teachings in all religions, they weren't talking on cell phones 4,000 years ago, right? Yes, they were crossing on trading routes and probably sharing some information, likely how meditation worked its way into Judaism over 2,500 years ago, traveling to India on the trade routes. But no, the common teaching of love your neighbor as yourself, that's in almost, I can't think of a religion that doesn't have that, because that is archetypal. Big fancy word. It's just in the ether, and we just get it. Right? Now, we don't live it because of the shadow stuff that all humans carry and are wounding. Nobody comes out of childhood unwounded. Never to blame parents. We do the best we can. I wish I had set up a therapy fund for all three of my sons, but you know, we're human beings, and then there's life circumstances. God, what's going on in Turkey and Syria right now? Those people are traumatized. What's going on in Ukraine? Those children are traumatized. Our own soldiers that came back from Iraq and Afghanistan, traumatized. That wasn't parenting. That was life experience. So we need to help people deal with trauma in order to get down to that spiritual core. But I want to start with Leviticus 19:9. I'm not going to go through all 9, but I think 19:9 and 19:10 speak volumes, and a lot of people ignore it. And 19:9 says, when you reap the harvest of your land, you should leave the corners. And I'm going to look for the exact translation from this particular translation. This is a Hebrew English. It just says, reap the corner of thy field. You shouldn't gather the gleaning of the harvest, right? So who's that left for? That's left for the poor. But it doesn't say to give it to the poor. This is very important distinction. It says to leave it so they have the dignity of gathering it up themselves, right? So I'm going to sound like a conservative here, which I am not, but there is something to say about the power of not just giving away things to the poor, but giving them an opportunity to help themselves, whether that is free training, education, childcare for young women, single mothers, and yes, to have them come into the fields when the tractors don't get everything and say, bring your basket, collect what you can, it's yours.
Yeah.
Second one, similarly, is when you gather from your vineyards, don't gather any of the fallen fruit. Again, leave that. And this one does say, leave that for the poor and for the stranger. I'm going to say this 3 times because it's got to sink in, people. Leave it for the poor and for the stranger. Who are the strangers? They were anybody that weren't within the Israelite people, right? So that means it was open to anybody, the Canaanites, the Egyptians, the Assyrians, the Babylonians, didn't matter. In a modern day context, now I'm going to sound like the other side, right? A liberal. We have to take care of those that are not of European descent in this country. Bible says so. Mitch doesn't say so. Bible says so. But it also says leave the fruit for them to gather, right? So we can set up programs to allow people to learn English, people to get job training, to fill these jobs that Americans just don't want to do, right? 2 texts right there. And then I'm going to jump down to not putting a stumbling block before the blind. That speaks to being honest and transparent in all business dealings. And yes, in all politics. All politicians lie through their teeth, right, to get votes. That's not what the Bible teaches. They should be very transparent about their views. They should not be belittling or demonizing their opponents. They should say, here's what I stand for. If you don't like it, don't vote for me. If you do like it, vote for me. That's really what our politicians should be doing because the Bible says so, right? And in our business dealings, we should be open and honest in whether the car's been in an accident before, you know, whether this product comes from wherever, what the materials are, what all that stuff. And then, okay, here's another one that's taken out of context. Do not swear by my name falsely, right? Elsewhere in the Bible, it talks about not taking God's name in vain. That is not anything about a curse word or a phrase of words beginning with God, ending with another word for a structure that holds back water, right? That's not what that means. The Uyghurites, 7,000 years ago, are the ones who created the idea of a contract. And in the contract, you had to promise 4 things. You had to say what you were selling or agreeing to. You had to agree on the price, number 2. You had to define what would happen if anybody broke the agreement. And then the 4th one is, this is what this phrase refers to. You agreed in the name of God to be honest in the contract, right? That's what don't take God's name in vain means. When you make a promise, keep it or clean it up. If you break a promise, own it and just clean it up, right? So you can say the GD word all you want. That is not a violation of the Bible. If you were told that, I apologize. You were told incorrectly. And now, of course, the text that we're here to speak of, and that is Leviticus 19:18. I'll read the whole thing. You shall not take vengeance nor bear any grudge against the children of your people, but you shall love the neighbor as yourself. So let's unpack this one phrase. Number 1, you shall not take vengeance or bear any grudge, right? So what does that mean? Open with your feedback when somebody has violated a boundary. If somebody has lied to you, if somebody has mistreated you, if somebody has abused you, you hold the boundary, you protect it, and you speak it without taking their head off. Right? That's what that means. And then give them the opportunity to clean up the mess. They have 3 tries according to Jewish law. And this is what happens between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Everybody has an opportunity to clean up the messes we've made with other people, but we have to go to them. We can't just pray for forgiveness. That doesn't work in Judaism. It's a very action-oriented thing, forgiveness. And we have 3 times to have the person say, you're right, I'm sorry that I hurt you. I'm going to try better to not do that again. And then we accept it. So no a grudge. And then the last piece is important. You shall love your neighbor as yourself, right? So many of us who are in the psycho-spiritual realm interpret that as, I cannot authentically love another person until I love myself. Now, that's not a call for narcissism. Narcissism is I'm the center of the universe and everybody beckons to my call. This is not that. This means I own my fallible, imperfect, very human self. And I love that too. I love my flaws. I love my failures. I love my regrets. I love my gifts. I love the contributions I've made to society. I love it all. Because if I can't do that, there's no way I can authentically love another, because I'm only going to see your crap. In the Christian text, Jesus says, you know, why do you see the speck in my eye and don't see the log or the stick in yours? Right? Or, you know, that though thou who's not, I'm totally misinterpreting this one. But basically, anyone who doesn't have guilt should cast the first stone, or anyone who has not sinned should cast the first stone. That actually comes from a real teaching of an adulteress who all the men of the village wanted to stone her to death. That's what the law says. And from what I've read, and correct me if I'm wrong, people, but I thought Jesus went up to them and said, all right, adulteress, yeah, okay. If you haven't committed a sin, then you throw the first stone at her. And everybody put their rocks down and walked away. Love that interpretation, right? So I'll leave it at that, is you got to love yourself, because what that means is when we love our flaws and our shadow, it means we're not projecting that now onto other. There's no other out there. We have no enemies, right? The other political party, they're not our enemy, right? The other people in that other country, they're not our enemy. The other religion, they're not our enemy. If we project our garbage onto them, they're the other and they're our enemy. And that leads us to the world, the broken world we have today. And Jewish mysticism charges us, every one of us, with the job of repairing a broken world through acts of loving kindness. So I'll leave it at that.
Wow. Wow. You are a teacher. Thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you. I've learned from many. So it's a long lineage.
All right. You know what I heard coming through the whole thread of what we were talking about? Yes, every faith tradition has a variation on the golden rule. We all have some sort of a mystical component, and everything that you had to say is based in practicality, actually doing what is best. And I love that. It puts all three of those legs of the stool together. Mitch,
Well,
thank you.
Yes. I was just going to close by saying, for me, that's what's worked. You know, I've never put a wall. I shouldn't say that. In later years, I've taken down any wall of resistance and come with what's called an open or an empty bowl of rice to try to fill it with learning from other religions, even Christianity. I've studied the Gospel of Thomas a number of times. I love it. I've taught a class twice on the Gospel of Thomas. I've taught Matthew chapter 5, a class called Jesus Through Jewish Eyes, because everything in Matthew chapter 5 was a Jewish teaching, because Jesus was Jewish.
You mentioned the Kabbalah earlier, and I wanted to ask, was Jesus steeped in the Kabbalah or only in the traditional teachings when he was a child at the synagogue?
That's a really good question. We don't know, because really the Kabbalistic teachings of the time were written down about 100 years after Jesus lived.
Okay.
And up in northern Israel, there's a town called Tzfat, and they're just below. It's up on a mountain. Just below in the valley is a cave, and it's believed that Shimon Bar Yochai wrote the first manuscript of Kabbalistic teachings, and then in 1500s, it was then Moses de Leon wrote the Book of Splendor, and that's where he mystically interpreted the Torah.
So maybe for your next visit, when you come to see us live in the room, how's that for a segue? Maybe we can talk about mysticism.
Oh, I would pay you to allow me to do that. I taught Kabbalah for about 20 years. I love it.
Great. Okay, it's game on. And I know you have a new book coming out in the spring, so
Right.
keep us posted on that, and we'll keep in touch. And when you're ready, come on up to the mountains. We'll feed you and all that good stuff, and you will feed us. All
Sure.
right.
Now something about the book. It's not really a spiritual book. It's a book on men and grieving. And I got stories, including my own, from my journey in life, from 3 other gentlemen and 2 male therapists who worked with men over the years. So really, it's a book about men and grief, how we grew from the experience.
Relevant and much needed.
All right,
Thanks.
be well.
All right, wave to the people.
Take care, everyone.
Bye. This song kind of relates to that idea.
Oh, when the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see. No, I won't be afraid. No, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me. Come on, sing with us. Darling, darling, stand by me. Won't you stand by me? Stand by me. Stand by me. Stand by me. If the sky we look upon were to tumble and fall, and the mountains should crumble to the sea, I won't cry, I won't cry, no, I won't shed a tear. Just as long as you stand, why don't you stand by me? Darling, darling, stand by me. Stand by me.
stand by me. All right. All right, have a seat. This is the time in our service when we gratefully celebrate our sharing and caring in the form of our gifts and tithes and offerings. And let's join together in saying our offering affirmation together. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, all that I receive, and all that I am. Well, I think we have been well fed today. I will share with you that Mitch refused to take a fee for what he did here. He asked us instead to make a donation to a grief counseling center that helped him a lot a few years ago, and he's now involved there. And we did. And what better thing could you possibly say about tithes and gifts and offerings than that? Yeah. All right. Well, actually, I'm going to say a lot more about it in a minute, but we'll come on with this. All right. These gifts are God in action. God is energy. God is love. And they flow through us and as us and out into the world and, yes, back around because they are a perfect upward spiral of love. And they do their good and perfect work in the world. And for that, we are incredibly, truly grateful. Thank you, God. Amen. Okay, I do have some news about money, and this is pretty interesting. You guys know about our Pennies from Heaven fund, right? If you're new here and you don't know, it's basically we established this about a year and a half ago. It's a special fund for those occasional emergencies that arise for all of us. And when we set it up, the idea came from Marion Schneider, by the way, and when we set it up, we said we'd like to raise $2,000 in the next, I think it was month or something like that. We blew past $2,000 in about 2 weeks, all right? And ever since then, that fund has been blessing people, many people in many different areas, all right? And you have been generously continuing to support it and to share and to care, all right? Right now, there's about $1,400 in there. The other day, I got a phone call from somebody who said, I will match up to $2,000, whatever the congregation can raise to build that fund way back up. Okay? So just arbitrarily, let's make it a challenge, all right? We'll say, if by the end of April, by the 30th of April, we can raise $2,000, this individual will match that, all right? And I can tell you, some of the people who have been blessed by that fund were very blessed by that fund, all right? And we'd love to see that keep going. Enough said? Yeah. All right. So when you write your tithe check or make your offering online, if you'd like to make an additional, over and above, you hear me? Okay. Just make it to the Pennies from Heaven fund, or make it to the church, but note that it's for Pennies from Heaven. Fair enough? Okay. Now, to follow on from what Mitch had to say, and the reason that we had Mitch today is because, well, first of all, what he had to share was incredible. Don't you agree? Yeah. And he's a funny and easy person to like, all right? So we'll see him again once his book is out. This leads us into this coming Thursday. We're going to have our own interfaith experience here. This table in the back is going to have 13 candles, and we're going to have 13 readers, each of whom will read one variation on the Golden Rule from a different religion. Does this sound good to you? Yeah. Okay, that's this Thursday at 6 p.m. I think it's going to be phenomenal. If we can, after the service today, let's get these chairs in a circle, okay? We've done that a few times before. All right. Sky, how you doing, buddy?
Doing
By the
great.
way, super job on this. This was a new... This was a new technical challenge, and Bob and Charlotte and Sky and also Paula, who figured out how to drop that YouTube into the keynote. Okay? And I can tell you that about 10 minutes before go time, we had a little uh-oh, but they fixed it and got it going, and it really worked. So thank you, bud.
We try
Thank
to
you
make
all.
it top notch here.
All right.
Our upcoming speakers. March 19th is Jim Rosemergy, and the music is done by my mother that day. Reverend Jim will also have books that day, book signing, I believe, as well then. April 16th is Reverend Robin Volker. April 23rd is Jennifer Farron. May 21st is Angela Harmon, who is also having a book signing. In the month of March, we're having our spring cleaning and rejuvenation. Sign-up sheets will be in the hall, and please see Jeanette Senart if you want to help get everything sparkly clean by April 1st.
All right. And that'll be a good thing. And then on April 2nd, we will celebrate Palm Sunday. The month of April, our 12 power for the month is love. And so on that day, we're going to wear pink. That's the color of the month. All right? That's Palm
Just got a new
Sunday.
sweater for that.
That's right. You'll find something. Right after the service that day, we have our Unity 101 class. That's our membership class. Most of you know about it. And if you are interested in joining the church, or if you'd just like to take the class again and just enjoy some conversation, because it's always a good conversation. It's not just me talking, okay? So that's April 2nd. April 7th is the Good Friday Project. That's online on Zoom from noon to 3, and it is a group of ministers and musicians from all over the southeastern region sharing readings, talks, meditations, and songs about the actual experience of Jesus on the cross on Good Friday. It's incredibly moving. Okay, I hope you'll join us for that. All right? Great American Songbook.
May 18th at 6 p.m. is our Sing for Joy, the Great American Songbook with timeless music from the 30s, 40s, and 50s. My songs include My Funny Valentines, Put Your Head on My Shoulder, Route 66, It Had to Be You, Georgia on My Mind, etc., etc. There are so many great, as the Gen Z calls it, bangers that we like to listen to.
Swinging bangers.
Yeah, exactly. So May 18th at 6 p.m., Sing for Joy. And then Sunday, June 4th, is a Blessing of the Animals at Meeks Park with Reverend Robin Volker. Sign up for our Mountain Spirit newsletter if you haven't already, and you'll get up to date with everything going on in the church. And then if you ever miss a service, please visit our YouTube channel at Unity Church of the Mountains. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Sky. Great job. Great job, choir. How about that? And the only other thing I can add to what Mitch had to say was that I'm kind of relieved about that cussing thing. I don't know about you all. Oh, uh-oh. Okay. You mean I can't say that Mitch is a badass? Yeah. All right. Let's join together in saying our healing affirmation together. May my mind know that it cannot be limited. May my heart know that it cannot be separate. May I know only wholeness of being and claim nothing less than the fullness of life. All right. Is my keyboard going through the main system still, or did we? It is? There we go. Okay. Let's stand and sing. Let us radiate all this good out into the world. Thank you, guys.
With God as creator,
light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Mighty blessings, mighty day, rainy day. Let's get those chairs in a circle, and we'll see you Thursday, 6 p.m. By the way, we'll have a little bit of coffee and conversation after, okay?